Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. For those who are new here, hello, hi, my name is Dion. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Now that you're here, I want to let you guys know that I do have a second channel called The Boy That Loved. That channel is dedicated to all the boys love content that before making that channel, it was here on this channel. But now I was like, let me just separate it, put it over there. Now, if you're subscribed to this channel, you'll get mostly the photography stuff, the K-pop stuff. But on my shorts, I still have my reactions to the Boys Love series. But if you want full-length reactions, if you want think pieces like this video, deep dives, list, all that Boys Love stuff is going to be over on that channel. I'll link it below for your convenience. Make sure you guys subscribe. But I wanted to make this video here on this channel to bring awareness to that channel. So still subscribe to this one, but also subscribe to the other one to get your whole, experience with me. You'll have a good time here, I promise. It's always a good time. So for today's video, today's topic, a little taste of what you'll get on the second channel is I want to talk about the taboos. Hold on. The taboos that are so common in boys love. Um, Now, it's a very interesting topic because it's utilized to bring a extra layer of othering, in my opinion, to what's going on. Because already, it's like you being queer is already an othering thing, but then also I'll add a layer with these taboos that go on top of it. It can be a little uncomfortable, even a little damaging to the community at times. And the reason I want to make this video because I've noticed a pattern in a few shows that have come out recently I've been reacting to. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? What are we doing? What is all this? Why are we seeing it in different shows multiple times? I'm not understanding. So I want to talk about that and engage your opinion, your thoughts, and your feelings on this, your point of view on this. I would love to see and hear what you guys think of this. Think of the subject at hand, but also my point of view. Because I, at times, can be overly critical. It's almost like I'm a killjoy when it comes to boys love because I'm like always like looking at stuff with squinted eyes, and maybe sometimes I feel like the fandom always has rose colored glasses on, but maybe I need a pair sometimes or some small shades of rose color just to have fun. Like it's not that serious, but sometimes I think it is that serious. So I want you guys to let me know if I'm like wilding right now or maybe I'm making a point. So we have three main taboos. I might dive into another one after these three are talked about, but there's three main ones I want to get into. The first one is a power dynamic, which is I guess they're all power dynamics. Oh my god, which is the boss and employee. If you've noticed recently, we've moved from high school, from the college setting that boys love is most commonly associated with to workplace. It's a similar concept. The characters are a bit older and they're in workplaces rather than a school, but it's the same. You're still close proximity and you have to be around each other. So like it's no different. Really, you know what I mean? But because we're in a work environment, that means it's common to have the boss and employee relationships be the focus. And sometimes the show itself is about an employee dating a boss. That's like the premise. That's like the gotcha moment. That's the taboo. Um, and I'll get into it later about why that's a taboo and how I feel about it. But that's the first one. The second one is pretty common. It hasn't been that common, but until recently I was like, oh, what's going on? It's the brother lover incestuous dynamic where characters are related, like stepbrothers or like they're related, they're family, and they end up in a relationship with each other. Now I don't think I've seen any actual like blood related boys love series like lovers. I'm sure they might exist, but also there's another layer to this because in a show I really want to get into called The Unknown, it's a brother lover guardian father figure relationship thing happening, and it's so uncomfortable. And I was like, let me get on here and talk to you guys about it so we can kind of go back and forth and see what we feel because I'm feeling weird about it. It's only been 2 episodes I've seen. I think it's only 2 episodes out, but I'm like, oh my goodness, it is kind of gross. And then the last one, I guess it applies to all three of these, is the age gap, but the teenager and adult relationship. Now that happens in all kinds of media and shows and stuff and whatnot. Um, I just I hate it. Like I hate it. And there's some shows I really like, but I'm having an internal conflict because I don't want to ship these characters together because this is a child and a grown man being booed up and paired up. And they get around it a lot of times by having a time jump, having the character at some point be older of age. And it's like, okay, well, he's 20 now. He's not 14 anymore. And it's like, okay, but majority of the story, like, come on now. Like, it's getting kind of weird and I hate it. And the thing is, all three of these taboos are like romanticized or explained away by the fandom. I'm seeing in comment sections on Twitter, even my own Discord, everyone has like, well, this, this, a rebuttal to these uncomfortable dynamics, to the criticism of these kind of things. There's a response to it. And I guess this video is a kind of, I want to know why you feel the way you do if you are not turning a blind eye, but are not shook by this. You're kind of like, whatever. Because at the end of the day, boys love's gonna boys love. I mean, the tropes and cliches are there all the time, and it's per the course. Like, it's gonna happen. But I feel like just because it's gonna happen or it does happen a lot, I don't know why we have to be like okay with it. We can feel the ways. We can be uncomfortable. Yes, we may like the actors. We may like their chemistry, but we can be like, oh goodness gracious, does he have to date his brother? Did the writers have to do that? The answer is no. A lot of these, they just make they add these things in to make it a little more scandalous, the taboo of it all. But you don't need to do that. Not every time. Not for like 15 different series. We don't need to have all that happening. So like I'm like, what can we do to make this better and different? Can we exclude those things? Because taking it out won't change much, right? But yeah, let's get into the first one, which is the employee and boss dynamic. Now, I think this is the least egregious out of all of them. I just think that I wasn't alive some months ago, and the show that was airing was A Boss and a Babe, and some of my peers were like, some people had issues with the boss and employee relationship, but they're just jealous and mad. I would love to be in that situation of me dating the boss and being like the it boy of the company, dating the boss, and like so glamorous, it's so sexy to be like, ooh, I'm on top. I got these benefits of being the boss's man, and it's like, mm, obviously the show itself isn't acknowledging the dangerous and unethical power dynamics that comes with dating your boss and that situation. Um, and yeah, I guess it may be glamorous or kind of like ooh, because like it's like ooh moment because it can be perceived as wrong, and sometimes it is wrong to even do that without going through the proper channels. But the shows themselves are not dedicated to making that a point, right? It's just to be like the surface level shock value of dating the boss, and people, you may have characters in the show might be whispering about it, or it may come up like, oh, you're dating the boss, but like it's nothing that serious. It never gets to the point where they're getting in trouble. They have to face things because they're dating each other, and they're in that dynamic. It never comes to that really. It might have come to that in that show Side by Side, Step by Step. What's it called? I think it's called Step by Step. I didn't finish that show, but that may have been something that came up. I don't know, maybe. But like in The Boss and the Babe, and even in the new employee. Well, the new employee, they did kind of the characters snuck around. It was an added layer of their dynamic. They had to sneak around. They can't be like public with their dynamic because he is his boss, and he actually quit, and they end up working together somewhere else together. That see, in that show, I was like, okay, work. Y'all acting like it's serious. That y'all can't actually be booed up right now. So you guys are sneaking around. It's wrong to sneak around, but also sneak around. Don't be some shows they be blatantly dating a person and like, oh well, and nothing happens to them by doing it. But I don't think it is the craziest and the most, you know, taboos to date the boss. I just don't think it's as sexy as you think it is because of the real implications of all that. So I think it's not that bad. It's not that egregious. It's not too crazy of a thing to happen in the Boys Love series. I would rather have employees just date each other and they're just kind of like that route, like Cherry Magic or our dating sim, that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, work. You guys it's no different than being classmates, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have to maybe go to HR or something like that, but it's never that crazy in a show where it's like an issue in your relationship. You know what I mean? Maybe you're worried about what people are going to say, or maybe you want to be on the down low. And that may be a point in the show. That may be a plot thread in the show they'd use. But, you know, it's not that serious. It's not like, you know what? I guess in the third one I'll talk about that, the whole like teacher and student type of thing. But it's not that crazy. So I don't think if I saw another show where the characters are boss and employee dating, I wouldn't be like put off by it per se. I will say that being the premise of the show is a bit annoying because for what? Like I'm not saying you can't have it in the show, but like it's your draw point. Like it's the scandal, it's the taboo of it all. So you'd be like, oh, boss and employee dating. Like, ooh, if that's like your whole shtick, your gimmick, what else? You know what I mean? Like it's not enough for me to be like, oh, the taboo of dating the boss is why I'm watching this show. That trope isn't enough. I don't think tropes are enough to watch a show. Like a show that has enemies to lovers, I don't think it's like, oh, I'm watching shows because enemies to lovers. I can appreciate or like that it's in there, but like it being the draw or like the friends with benefits trope being the premise, just do something else and just have friends with benefits be a plot line in it. Like I don't why is it the show? That's for another video though. Okay, so next one is the a brother lover type of dynamic. I do not care for this trope. I understand sometimes it's like an instant brother where like it's your homie but your parents date each other, or it's your mortal enemy and your parents date each other, or get married now you're siblings. But like, ew, like I'm not understanding. Again, I know these are taboos and cliche and scandals that kind of make it like forbidden love, and you want to have that dynamic be played into it so like their love conquers all. But like I said, the boss and employee thing is not that bad of a thing, but this one is, in my opinion. Like I'm like, brother lover stuff is just, it's in this weird realm of like you want to have a taboo and have it's already a issue dating, like being queer, right? And then you could add on you're dating a family member. And I'm not saying things like this don't happen. There's a lot of actual real life people who are dating their siblings, blood or not, and it's like a thing in their storylines where those things happen. And like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, or I'm not even saying you can't have it in your story, but it's used for like a shock factor kind of thing. It doesn't go nowhere with it. There's no, and lots of times these boys love series, it's in a bubble. Early series were in a bubble kind of thing. Like you being with a boy isn't, you're in a bubble. So the issues that may come of that aren't affecting you. Nothing is almost an isolated fantasy version of being queer, which I mean, I guess that's boys love. That's the boys love to a T. But it's, you're in a bubble and like some shows, all your friends gay all of a sudden because they look at someone, they fell on top of each other, they touch hands, now the music's playing, now y'all all in love with each other. It's kind of like, oh, it's this weird little bubble thing. And like in these series where the brothers are like boot up, is like the issues of you dating your sibling is never really brought up. You might bring it up and maybe look kind of like crazy, but like there's nothing. It doesn't go anywhere with that narrative. Now some shows do. Like what was it? History 4, the brother lovers thing with the parents and their kids are together. That was crazy, and that they ended up together anyways, I believe. But at least they had oh my gosh, it was crazy because the mom was like letting let it happen, but the dad had issues with it. He had a heart attack. It was a lot. So it wasn't like it wasn't addressed and it wasn't brought up, but they still they still end up together. I don't y'all that was crazy, right? I don't know. I don't know. But I do think sometimes the brother lover thing is fine when they're not actually brothers. Like I feel like obviously if you're blood related or if you're like brothers by marriage, it's a little like more than a little gross. But if you're brothers in arms, brothers in like you grew up together. You know what I mean? Like those the brother dynamic and Kiseki. The other couple, they're not actually brothers, but they grew up together and they have a brotherly dynamic, but they're not brothers. I I feel like if you're growing up with someone, you may feel like siblings, but if it crosses the line of being romantically involved, I'm like, okay, well, you're not actually related in any official way. Some kind of like work. Um, Now it is kind of weird if you are referring to each other as brothers on a regular basis. That's like you refer to him as your brother, despite not actually being related, and y'all end up dating. I'm like, ooh, gross. What's going on here? But I wouldn't be like, you know, put off by it per se. But I'm also like, okay, you spent 10 episodes saying that's your brother, and you'll be the best man at his wedding, but now you're the groom. Like it's a little weird. But in the show Unknown, now what the hell is going on with that show? Cause we have a brother situation, and we see like a flashback of them. Now it confused me at first. I thought based on the watching the episodes and based on the intro credit scene thingy that we're having like two grown men raising children together type of thing, and that wasn't the case because in the show, spoiler alert, if you didn't see it, go watch it, I guess, or just keep watching this. I don't know. Do what you want. I'm spoiler. Um, our main guy, he ends up raising his sister and this other boy that he it in the show they say they're brothers, but he adopts him as his brother, but he essentially takes care of him. He's a parental figure to this boy and his sister. He is their caregiver. He's taking care of them, and I don't know the age difference, but he's significantly older than this boy. And I thought because the boy, he's played by two different actors, one as a kid and one as an adult. I thought the adult actor was just the main guy's love interest, which he is, but I found out the adult actor is the little boy. He just grown up. And I was like, excuse me? You mean to tell me we spent all this time of him saving this boy, taking care of this boy, raising him. I mean, we see the family doing homework. We see him going to the track practice. He's in a hospital. He's by his side. This whole thing. And we see now he's grown up and they're going to be a couple. And you may say, "Oh, it's not exactly grooming." If you watch the show, it's the young one comes on to the older guy. It's not the other way around. So I don't know if it's like considered grooming or whatever that is, but it's still gonna happen. They're gonna be booed up. This boy you raised, and now you're gonna date him. And I'm like, and I was seeing because I didn't realize that was the case. I did not realize. I thought the older the love interest is going to raise these two kids, but they grow up, and that's the boy he's dating. But I saw on Twitter people were like, "Oh, the premise is kind of weird, obviously, but let's see how they handle it." What do you mean how they handle it? As much as you can say, "Oh, well, he might resist the advances at first, or he might resist the advances in general," he's still gonna end up with him. It doesn't matter how much he resists, or he's technically not his dad. It's still. weird and gross, right? Or I could be tripping. I'm willing to stand behind my feelings towards this. Like I am uncomfortable with it. I am like gross. But you guys let me know if maybe there's another point of view on this. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. That's a lot of the things people like to say when if you criticize boys' love for having certain things in it, it happens. I'm like, I got that. I totally get it. We don't need to have it in these series. We don't need to have perpetuate these kind of things with queer folk. The queer folk are dating their brother sons. Yeah, I know this dynamic isn't that common. Obviously, I mean, brother lover is, but like father son ain't. Ew, just hearing that, I'm like, girl, what is this? I would rather just keep it brother lover, like your best friend or your enemy. They're your brother now, and y'all just fall in love, and that even now I'm kind of like, ugh, ugh, ugh. I don't know, y'all. What y'all think? I'm like about to throw up. Okay, the last one is a standard teenager and adult age gap thing. Um, I don't care for that. But lots of shows that have it kind of address it in some ways where they kind of not in like old timey medieval stuff because back then I guess that's kind of like the norm, the child bride kind of thing. I mean, I guess it's a thing now, but like it's not as it's more taboo to be a child bride or date someone when you're like 15 and they're like 30. Like it's not it's frowned upon, obviously. Um, I'm personally not with it at all. And sometimes I do feel like it dampers my experience with the show because, like, Sahara Sensei, it's the case. It's one the teacher and student dynamic is already taboo in itself. That goes along with it's way more taboo than the boss and employee. I think student and teacher thing is kind of like, oh my goodness, that part of the dynamic is crazy too. Maybe worse than the employee and boss because it's lots of times it is centered around a child and an adult, so it's way worse. Um, So I'm watching Sahara Sensei, and that's the dynamic, and I like that show a lot. I like the characters, the dynamics, the setting, the acting. It's such a good series to watch. I just the romance part of it is where I'm kind of like, girl, what are we doing? I was naive. I thought our main character had a crush on his teacher, but given that's his teacher, given that it's a grown man, I thought he was going to end up being booed up with someone else, like a misdirect. Like he likes his teacher, but like he ends up dating someone else. And I one of the characters that came on the screen, I was like, oh, he's gonna end up dating him. Obviously, they have he just met him and they have a good rapport already. Oh, that's gonna be his love interest. And the teacher's going to discourage the crush, and he's going to date that boy. Lies and slander, lies and mother loving slander. No, that's not what happened. Bestie doubles down, and the teacher returns the feelings, and they become boot up at the end. And I'm like, oh, um, damn. And what makes it worse, y'all? The teacher he ends up dating. We get a flashback. They met each other when old boy was in fourth grade. Yes, you're like, oh, it's not grooming, because in the narrative he met him when he's in fourth grade, but he didn't like raise him. He wasn't around him. It was just that one moment he saved his life, and old boy admired him and went to the same school that old boy went to. However, it's still like you met this boy when he was a fourth grader, and you were like what 18. Oh, and the thing is, I understand because this happened during Kaseki. That's also a teenager and a grown adult. I think it was like 17 and 30. Like that. I'm like, what? You dating this older man. Um, a lot of people were commenting because I'm like, oh my god, this teenager and this grown man. People keep will say like, oh, the age of consent over here is 15, it's 16, it's not illegal. Girl, I know. I'm not asking you if it's legal or not. I know it. I know in different countries the age of consent is 15, 16 years old, sometimes 14. I'm well aware of that. It does not have to be in the narrative. And if I asked you, like, so with that being said, because you brought it up to kind of deflect from the creepy implications of this, are you going to go to this country and date a teenager? Do you want to date a teenager? Most likely, the answer will be no. So why would you bring that up as if that I'm asking if it's legal or not? And maybe people are okay with a teenager and a grown adult dating in a certain country because it's legal to do so. But for me, it's very telling. I know that sounds judgmental in a way, or definitely. But I'm like, I hearing someone say, "Oh, hey, just so you know, it's not illegal. Yeah, you have an issue with a teenager and a grown man dating, but they're not breaking any laws. Okay, it's so gross. Like I don't understand what we. And the thing is, you may not even disagree with that. You probably yeah, it is gross. So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, I don't understand why we have to co-sign on this. And yes, in that narrative, there's a time jump. So obviously he's an adult, but he met meaning the thing is they'll have these time jumps, but when you have the characters meet when they're kids, sometimes growing up with them, being around them, and then they date them as an adult when you've been an adult this whole time, it is disgusting. And it's happening so often. It'd be great if these adults would, not date these children. Now there's an age gap and they are both adults when they meet. I'm like, work, you're 21 and they're, 40, go off. But if if they 10 years old and you're 28, I'm gonna need you not to pursue that. I don't care if they're 20, and you're 38. Like it's totally fine not to date that child that you met. It's okay. You don't have to do all that. It doesn't need to be in the story, in my opinion. Now, having it, like I said, doesn't ruin the story per se for me. It does ruin the romance, and these are romance shows, so like it's hard for me to really get into the nitty gritty and ship it. I think that might have happened to me during there's a show called Queer as Folk where our pseudo main character, I guess a lot of main characters, but I forgot his name. What's that boy's name? Damn it. Anyways, he's 17 and he's dating the other main character, Brian, who's just turned 30. He lies about his age. We found out he's 17, but they still have this type of sexual dynamic that happens, even though he doesn't want to pursue him because he's a teenager, but he still kind of like does. And they end up together. Obviously, later on, he is of age. He grows up. He's an adult now, and their relationship is on paper okay, but he met him as a teenager and he was busting him down as a teenager. Now, in Queer as Folk, that stuff is acknowledged. In Queer as Folk, there's other things going on, other layers to that. There are different dynamics with different characters. It is frowned upon by the friend. Like it's not romanticized in any way. I think you can romanticize it if you are the teenager, because like a lot of these shows that have like teenager dating the student, if you are a teenager and you see that, you're kind of like you think that's so sexy and exciting. Like you're watching Degrassi, they have a few storylines where the students are dating the teachers, and if you're as a kid watching shows that have these kind of taboo things, you yourself are kind of like, ooh, that's so like sexy and so like exciting to date your teacher and date someone older and do all these things that are dangerous. As an adult, you're kind of like, damn, that was a wild thing to even want to do, to want to emulate. You know what I mean? And like, cause you know better, right? And I I would argue that I would think that people who are of age, who are older, watching these shows and seeing like these child and adult relationships happen, you're like, oh. But I feel like I'm the only one. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not the only one. But I do know that lots of times you have to ignore glaring issues with a ship to ship them. That may be what's actually going on here. Because a lot of people like to ignore the abusive nature of relationships in these shows. They explain away things. Their main characters can do certain things, but other characters can't, and because they want to, not have a reason. What's it called? Cognitive dissonance. What's the word where you have to recontextualize your feelings on something because you like something. So if you like the ship, you may be against this character, killing someone. You may be against killing, but your fave killed, so now you try to do what you can to justify it, even though it goes against your morals. Because it's your fave, you were like, well, it's not that bad, or he had a like you try to explain away their behavior so you can continue to ship it or root for them. You don't want to hold them accountable for a certain action that they're doing that may be deemed awful. I feel like that kind of happened a lot in what's the show called? Dangerous Romance. I'm like, this guy is an a-hole and he's a terrible person. But since he's nicer now, we're going to ignore all those things he did, and he's not really atoning or doing anything to make up for what he did. So, but as a fandom shown, he doesn't need to, because you like Perth. He's a main character, so oh well. It's kind of like one of those kind of things. And for me, I've notoriously hated couples that got together when their storyline has like toxic dynamic, abuse, manipulation, hatred. Like there's a lot of things that go on in the relationship that makes it a horrible dynamic to have, but they end up together. I'm not like, ooh, yes. I'm like, oh no, this is awful. And I know I'm like one of the few people who feel that way a lot with these ships. I'm like, oh, I can't ship it for XYZ reason. Even if I enjoy the show, I'm like, oh yes, this is my show. This couple, no ma'am. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on all these things. I'm sure you guys will give me an earful. Please talk to me nice. I would appreciate it. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on these taboos and cliches. Which ones are you okay with, and why are you okay with them? That's what I'm curious about. Like, why are you okay with a boss and employee? Is it because you're like, oh, well, they're consenting adults? Okay, sure. If the storyline says they have to go to HR, and they go to HR, and they deal with the issue of doing that and what happens, the consequences. Either somebody quits as part of the storyline, you're like, okay, it's fine. Which the thing is, you can't have these taboos and cliches. How you use them and what they mean in the narrative is impactful. Lots of times it's just for shock value, or like it's like a scandal, like ooh, an extra layer of forbidden love. You want forbidden love to triumph without actually really addressing the elephant in the room. Mm, it's hard for me to ship it, me personally. I mean, I know people will ship it regardless because they're like, yes, their love conquers all. Yes, they may be 40-year age difference between the two, but love conquers all. Yes, they're brothers. I know they're brothers, but love conquers. Like, ugh, gross. Okay, let me know your thoughts below on this. Again, follow the new channel. I'm making some more videos on there, like this one. Become a patron. I'm watching shows on there. I'm watching. What did I start? I started Unknown. I started. What's that show called? Perfect Purpose. Sorry, Perfect Propose. I can't want to say purpose because I feel like it should be purpose or proposal. One of the two, not purpose. Propose. That word's a tongue twister. Perfect Propose. I'm watching that on there. So come over to my Patreon, subscribe, watch some extra content, help support the channel. And yeah, I will see y'all in the next video.